Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, hearings will resume in about an hour as the Senate Judiciary Committee begins the process of questioning Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. A look at yesterday's opening statement and when we could see a vote.
A teenager shot and killed overnight in East Bakersfield as we examine the number of homicides so far this year that have involved children.
Today, we expect to learn whether Kern County will move into the red tier of the state's coronavirus restriction system, why health officials say getting tested could actually help push us in the right direction, and how you can do that today for free outside of our studios. This is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. Good morning. It is 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. And yeah, we are setting up outside this morning, and in just about 2 hours, we're going to start that testing again.
We'll have more on that coming up. But first, we're taking a look at your forecast. And once again, we're starting to warm up just a little bit. We're not going to see the 90s, but we're going to be awfully close. Right, Kev?
Yeah, we are going to be close. We're going to see a gradual warm up as we go throughout the week here. And the other thing we'll be looking at is a little bit of a haze around the area with air quality. It's still in the moderate range, though. As we take you over to the air quality numbers this morning, we'll show you kind of what they look like. And you can see we're in the moderate range for all valley and mountain locations at this time. And we still have the air quality alert until Wednesday at 5 p.m. So that's been extended out a little bit. As we take a look at the temperature right now, 61 degrees, no winds to talk about in Bakersfield. And as we take a look at the dog walk forecast, a good day for that walk. As you can see, those temperatures will be rising, though, into the upper 80s by 5 o'clock. 41 in Tehachapi, a cool start here, an east-southeast wind at 8. And as we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast here, you can see temperatures expected into the lower 80s. I'll have much more on your pinpoint forecast. That's coming up in a bit.
All right, Kev, thanks so much. This morning, a 15-year-old boy is dead after he was shot in East Bakersfield. The deadly shooting happened before 6:30 last night on East 11th Street, just a couple blocks from the Martin Luther King Jr. Park. BPD says officers got a shot spotter alert with 3 shots fired. When they arrived, they found the teen had been shot several times, lying in the roadway. He was taken to the hospital but died. Police did not provide information on the shooter or shooters. By our count, this is the 11th child to be killed in Kern County this year. That means 1 of every 10 homicides this year has been someone under 18.
Dramatic new video shows the moment a man allegedly set off 2 explosions during a 14-hour standoff in Bakersfield. Those blasts started a fire in the home where police say 39-year-old Elliott Davis held his young son hostage. In this video, you can see what appears to be a young child running out of the home after the blast. It all started around 5 o'clock Sunday night near Dimas and 32nd Street near Memorial Hospital. Bakersfield police were called to reports of a man assaulting his ex-wife with a hammer. The man was identified as Elliott Davis. His sister-in-law, Beth Shook, says she and the couple's 4-year-old son were in the house when it happened.
And my nephew, he's just little, he's like this tall. And he was standing in the door looking outside. He had his hand on the knob and was standing in the doorway. And rather than pull the door out of his hand, I lifted the curtain and looked. And right out here by that tree, my brother-in-law was beating her in the head with a hammer.
Davis's ex-wife escaped and drove to a nearby store where someone called an ambulance for her. She was treated for major injuries. Police say when they arrived, Davis took the boy into the house, and that's when he threw an explosive device at officers trying to arrest him. Officers broke into the house around 4 o'clock yesterday morning. That's when Davis allegedly lit a new explosive. The 4-year-old boy was rescued before it detonated. BPD says Davis is in a local hospital and is stable. The 4-year-old's also being treated. Beth Shook says Davis is an Army veteran with PTSD who has been trained with explosives.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic here in Kern County. 54 new cases were reported yesterday and no new deaths. 395 people have lost their lives to this virus since the beginning of the pandemic in March. There are currently more than 10,000 people recovering from this virus at home, while 37 people are in the hospital. And we're expecting to learn today whether Kern will move into the red tier of the state's coronavirus categorization system. Kern Public Health says the county just barely met the requirements to move up a tier last week. If those metrics have held for the past 2 weeks, The move from purple to red should happen today. That would allow houses of worship and many businesses to reopen indoors with restrictions. Bars will remain shut down. If we remain in the tier for an additional week, schools can reopen. Current officials say one of the reasons we are able to move in the less restrictive tier is because more people are getting tested.
Johnson & Johnson has paused its clinical trials of a coronavirus vaccine after a patient fell ill. The pharmaceutical company said the patient's condition was being evaluated by an independent organization. It's unclear whether the participant was in the placebo control group or received the experimental vaccine. Another vaccine maker, AstraZeneca, also started its phase 3 vaccine trial last month, but was placed on pause in the U.S. after a participant in the United Kingdom was reported to have developed a spinal cord injury. And like we just mentioned, county health officials stress the importance of everyone getting tested. It could help keep our community safe and help reopen our economy.
And once again, you can get a free test outside our KGT studios here in downtown Bakersfield. And this morning, that's where we find 17's Taylor Schau giving us the details about what's happening later today. Good morning, Taylor.
Well, good morning, Alex. Though things are seemingly looking up for Kern County businesses, they can easily close down again if we don't meet these state's metrics. And one of those metrics, as you mentioned earlier, is our testing rate. And I think this is why it is so important that we really cover this as people come out here this morning to get tested. Kern Public Health hopes you come out and get tested even if you have no symptoms. And as you mentioned earlier, we may enter that second most restrictive tier, red, today, and the county officials have repeatedly said a way to keep advancing through this system, get past red, continue to reopen up businesses, is to get a COVID-19 test. As you may recall, we've been meeting the state's positivity rate requirements and case number per 100,000 residents requirements for several weeks now, but it all hinges on that testing rate. So coming out will not only keep you and your neighbors safe, allow you to understand if you are possibly spreading the virus, but it can also help bring businesses here in Kern County and keep them open. Testing begins at 7 o'clock this morning. It's going to run until 6 o'clock tonight. Again, it's on 22nd and L Street, also known as Compassion Corner, right here outside of KGT Studios. And of course, we want to give a special thanks to the Kern Community College District, who always allows us to use this land right outside of here. So if you want to get tested, come out between 7 a.m. 6 p.m. tonight.
Welcome back here at 517, making news around the world. German researchers are warning that the Arctic could be ice-free during summer within a few decades. One member of the team, just back from the largest ever Arctic expedition, says the ice is dying. The team found that ice at the top of the world could melt entirely in summer if humanity does not change course. The Polar Star spent more than a year drifting in Arctic ice. More than 400 researchers, crew members, teachers, and journalists were involved in the expedition. Australian researchers have found the coronavirus can survive 28 days on glass, currency, and stainless steel. The study was done by Australia's National Science Agency. It appears to show that in a very controlled environment, the virus remained infectious for longer than other studies have found. For example, 28 days is much longer than the flu virus can survive. Researchers said their findings highlight the need for cleaning and hand washing to combat the virus.
In Europe, they thought they'd figure out how to tame COVID-19 without strict lockdowns. It worked until they let their guard down, and now there's a full-blown second wave. NBC's Richard Engel reports.
I'm Richard Engel in London, where there is now a full-blown second wave spreading across Europe. Italy, the first country to shut down completely, recorded its highest single-day spike since March. France set an all-time high for new cases this weekend. The Spanish capital, Madrid, is in a state of emergency. Limits on who can come and go. But it's the UK where COVID restrictions have been most openly ignored. This weekend, London nightlife was in full swing. By law, groups are limited to 6 people, but few seem to care. Prime Minister Boris Johnson announcing a new 3-tier system, ranking areas by infection risk: moderate, high, and very high.
The number of cases has quadrupled in the last 3 weeks. There are now more people in hospital with COVID than when we went into lockdown on March the 23rd.
I met nurse Lisa Malpiedi 5 months ago when she was exhausted and drained from caring for dying patients. When it first started to go up again, did you have that feeling, oh, here we go again?
Yeah, it's literally, here we go again. And it feels like there's no end to it. You're coming out of this dreamlike sequence and it just seems to be happening again.
American citizens are currently not allowed to travel to the UK without going into quarantine. But there are now discussions of allowing unrestricted travel in time for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Richard Engel, NBC News, London.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Welcome back here at 523. Facebook is updating its hate speech policy, now banning Holocaust denial and distortion. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced the decision, saying the move was made due to a rising tide of anti-Semitism and an examination of free speech. He says further, quote, drawing the right lines between what is and isn't acceptable speech is not straightforward, but with the current state of the world, I believe this is the right balance. Under the new policy, users who search for the Holocaust on Facebook will be directed to authoritative sources for accurate information. In local business news, new teriyaki restaurant Teriyaki Madness has opened up in Bakersfield, and those who put an order in today will be entered into a contest to win free teriyaki for a year. The restaurant opened last week on Columbus Street near Haley in East Bakersfield, offering Seattle-style teriyaki, which is like Japanese teriyaki but adds fresh ginger and garlic into the sauce. Amazon's shopping holiday Prime Day kicked off early this morning, and many say this is the unofficial start to the holiday shopping season. The same day Apple is unveiling new phones. Liz McLaughlin has more.
Good morning, Amazon's Prime Day sale is underway. The annual shopping event, delayed this year for the first time, is usually meant to be a Christmas in July.
Now it's really being perceived broadly in the retail world as the unofficial start to the holiday shopping season.
Last year, Amazon said Prime Day was the largest shopping event in its history, topping sales for Amazon's 2018 Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined.
This year we have more deals than any Prime Day before.
Over the 48-hour sale, Amazon says it will unveil more than 1 million deals, including deep discounts on its smart home devices such as the Echo Dot.
It's 60% off on Prime Day. It's marked down at $18.99.
But Amazon's big sale is only available to its Prime customers, who pay $120 per year for perks including 2-day shipping, leaving room for other retailers to reel in customers, now more reliant on virtual shopping due to COVID-19.
Walmart's has already started, Target has already announced as well, and Best Buy, and these are all Black Friday-like sales.
This comes as Apple prepares for its virtual event today, unveiling new iPhones, with many anticipating its first 5G device.
Apple is really just trying to, get on the same competitive landscape with every other smartphone maker.
Retailers fighting to catch consumers' attention and dollars ahead of an unprecedented holiday shopping season. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
Local election headquarters. Today, Judge Amy Coney Barrett will take questions from senators at her Supreme Court confirmation hearing. Coney Barrett's confirmation hearings are set to enter into their next phase, with the 48-year-old nominee due to answer questions from members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Barrett could be asked about her past statements on abortion and the role of precedent, her views on an upcoming case over the Affordable Care Act, and whether she'll recuse herself from litigation stemming from the upcoming election between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. President Trump is back on the road campaigning. He'll be in Pennsylvania today after a rally in Florida, his first since testing positive for coronavirus. Tracy Potts has more.
Maddie, good morning. Good morning, everyone. President Trump is back with an aggressive campaign schedule. He's hitting several battleground states this week and beyond, catching up with Joe Biden, who's ahead by double digits in several of the latest national polls.
It's great to be back in my home state, Florida.
President Trump before a largely maskless crowd at his first rally since being hospitalized with COVID-19. His doctor now says he's tested negative.
Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience.
Joe Biden in Ohio chiding the president for returning to the campaign trail so soon.
His reckless personal conduct since his diagnosis has been unconscionable. The longer Donald Trump is president, the more reckless he seems to get.
The Trump campaign also under fire for this ad.
I can't imagine that anybody could be doing more.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci says his praise for the coronavirus response is out of context.
I think it's really unfortunate and really disappointing that they did that. It's so clear that I'm not a political person.
All this with COVID cases on the rise in 30 states, some hitting new one-day records and hospitalizations, and with millions already voting.
It could have rained, it could have snowed. I would not care.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Long lines up to 7 hours here in Georgia, not stopping determined voters. According to the U.S. Elections Project, more than 10 million Americans have already voted. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
And that's the subject of our 17 interactive feedback poll. We're asking, have you already voted in the 2020 election? Call or text us at 888-4617. Press 1 if you have, 2 if you have not. Text, tweet, and email and Facebook us your comments. Once again, our phone line is 888-4617. If you did vote early, you can visit our new webpage dedicated to voting by mail. Our team compiled a series of investigative reports on everything you need to know about the process. Go to our website, kget.com, and click the Vote by Mail button.
In state news, the California Republican Party is under fire after placing unofficial ballot drop boxes in several counties. Secretary of State Alex Padilla and Attorney General Javier Becerra sent the state and local chapters involved cease and desist letters after they discovered the boxes over the weekend in Fresno, Los Angeles, and Orange counties. State election officials are accusing the state's Republican Party of misleading voters and violating state election laws. California Republican Party Communications Director Hector Barajas said the intent was to give voters more opportunities to cast their ballot. Meantime, in the Bay Area, as we narrow in on Election Day, thousands of poll workers are getting the training they need to prepare. According to Alameda County officials, 4,800 people have volunteered for 1,700 spots at polling stations. And with voting already underway, many volunteers are already sorting and going through cast ballots and registration forms. But this year, it's not just about help at polling stations and sorting through cast ballots. Many polling stations are looking for COVID-19 pandemic prevention volunteers. Stacks of face masks and plastic gloves will be handed out to voters who want to cast their ballots in person. And modifications will be made on a case-by-case basis for any voter not wanting to wear a mask while casting their ballot on Election Day. Here at home, a woman is dead after a crash on Panama Lane. It happened just before 3:30 yesterday afternoon on Panama Lane near Cottonwood Road. The crash involved a compact sedan and a box truck. Police say the woman lost control of the car for unknown reasons and overcorrected into oncoming traffic, hitting the truck. The woman died at the scene. Her name has not yet been released. The driver suspected in a deadly hit-and-run crash on Sunday has turned himself over to Bakersfield police. According to the CHP, 29-year-old Joshua Reyes struck and killed a man who was walking in the area of Mount Vernon Avenue and Monterey Street. CHP says Reyes left the scene but went to the Bakersfield Police Department a few hours later. The name of the 70-year-old victim has not been released. Welcome back. Your time now is 5:50, and a mural was unveiled in downtown Bakersfield honoring Patricia Alatorre. The Bakersfield teenager was kidnapped and murdered back in July. 17's Karen Waugh brings us a wrap of the emotional event last night.
1, 2, 3. I can come and look at her and it's like she's looking at me.
At the corner of 19th and L Streets in downtown Bakersfield, you can't miss her. You can't look away from the violence in our community that takes young lives like hers.
Even if it's not your own child, be vigilant for the children.
After her gruesome death, Patricia Alatorre's family grew as she became Bakersfield's daughter.
I just think that we all have a Patty in our home, and I think the community felt the same way. As multiple people have said, she became a part of all of us.
But this was a night of positivity, not to remember the brutal details of of Patty's death, but to remember her as a loving 13-year-old girl.
So I just wanted to separate the events and honor the mother and the daughter. You know, there's no greater love than a mother's love.
Local nonprofit The Next Steps commissioned and donated the mural to the community with symbols of sunflowers and butterflies as Patty watches over from the sky.
Just like the sun comes up, that's how she was. I would describe her as the sunshine.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.